So what's up, y'all? So today I wanted to take just a couple minutes to kind of talk a little bit about some of these entrepreneur struggles that we go through, particularly in the idea of a solopreneur transitioning themselves into a business model. And, I think a lot of us tend to do that. That's what started with me. If you guys haven't heard my story, my wife and I decided to start buying houses with the idea of rental portfolio. We wanted to buy like 10 houses in our lifetime to hold as rentals. And that's how we started. And then we kind of grew this into more of a business model and now have, 14 people in this company. We've opened up other companies. And so we started off as one of those couples that I would say, hey, we looked at like the HGTV stuff, right? And that looked really cool and kind of transitioned into a whole company. I'm not ashamed. No shame. I hear, everybody likes to rip on the HGTV folks. I'm not ashamed to say it kind of was one of the reasons what kind of gained my interest into real estate. But I say all that to say we transitioned from like these hobby type positions into more of a business mindset. And that comes with a ton of struggles, right? Going from this hobby to business owner. And you don't just own a business. It's not like you just went and bought a franchise of Subway, right? You don't just own the business. Like you are the business at that point. When we first started out, people say, oh, who decided what to do? We both had full-time jobs. If it was Tuesday and I was working, my wife did everything. If it was Wednesday and she was working, I did everything. And it was a period of time before we started to switch out job roles, right? And so I say all that to say, like, in the beginning, you are the business. And then we struggle with when to grow, how to have money to grow, to be able to pay other people, right? So you start off as being the business, you are the producer, and as you grow the business, now you become the leader of people. And then there's another transition point where you become leader of leaders. So we're all going to be in different areas on our entrepreneurial journey here, right? But what I want to talk about today is this initial transition point from producer in the entire business to a leader of people. And many times we feel just ill-equipped, right? We don't have the experience of running our own business. We have no formal education in this, in management or business sometimes. I know some people do, but oftentimes you don't, right? And what's worse is that this transition point from being a producer to a leader of the company is not a light switch, right? It's not this instantaneous thing. It takes time to develop yourself as a leader, number one. But number two, to be able to transition your roles and responsibilities. You start off and you're probably spending 90% of your time still in that producing mindset, mentality, and activities. And only maybe 10% of your time actual focused on leading other people. And what makes this even more difficult is that these leadership responsibilities, typically they get tacked on, right? I don't just to get to like shut off my other stuff. I still had all this other stuff going on in my life. I still had all this other stuff going on in the business. So you've got your current roles and responsibilities that you feel like you're probably up to your nose in to begin with. And now you start tacking on this responsibility of leading other people, and again, we're like typically like already at our capacity. So here we are, trying to maintain production because now I'm bringing on other teammates that are now responsible, for the income of the business. And meanwhile, I got to try to maintain my production in the revenue activities that I'm working on, right? While trying to decide what the heck am I even going to delegate, right? What's the right decision of what tasks to delegate, when to delegate them, who should I be delegating them to, and how do I even set that whole process up, right? And again, when you're starting and there's nobody else here. As a solopreneur, there's nobody else to help you with these things. So all of this stuff kind of gets dropped onto your lap, right? You think about writing a job description. Where do I place an ad? I got to put the ad out. How do I filter through candidates? The interviewing process, the hiring. There's a lot of portions that kind of get put on your plate as you start to grow, and a lot of these struggles and stress points, okay? Before you're just left to sit in this box and just lead people, right? And so I want to flip this back to a video I made a while back that talked about the grind, right? The people like to, the beginners like to glorify it. I'm just grinding. And then, gurus like to vilify it and be like, oh, grinding is the worst thing in the world. Like, why is anybody grinding? Well, startups in particular, I don't think you can avoid the grind. Like that grind is part of that transition from being the doer of the company to a leader of a company, right? To onboarding and training of other people. Like I said, I got nobody else around me right now. I've got to be able to maintain the business while I bring somebody else on. right? I could go into a whole darn tangent about the idea of like, you got to have the money to pay. People say, oh, you don't need money for a business. Like, you don't need money or time. So yes, you could pay somebody to do all this stuff. You could pay somebody to do your hiring for you. You can pay people to train people. Absolutely. But where did that money come from, right? That money's coming from either the grind of you working or you've already become an established business. So this beginning transition point is where some of us kind of can get lost. We're trying to get too far ahead of ourselves and where we're at in our companies, okay? And so it goes back to the idea of the seasons video, right? You've got the different seasons of life, your winter, your spring, and you're sitting here and you're still planting and you're tilling the land while now you're trying to fertilize these investments. I think it's really important that you know your vision, that you know where you're headed, right? And know, I'm a big one where I don't like to talk negatively like this to discourage people. I want to talk negatively like this to encourage people to know what it takes to go into it. Because if you don't understand the amount of work and the amount of time that it takes to get in, you can find yourself beating yourself up. I didn't know it was going to be like this. There must be something wrong with me. It must be so much easier for everybody else. But no, I'm here to say these are the struggles we all go through, whether we want to get out on a video and actually talk about them. These are the struggles, and there are some help for them. We could talk about that in a little bit. But these are the struggles that we all go through. And know that you're going to get just hit in the face with all this stuff. And as soon as you get hit off one, you're like, I'm better. Boom, you get hit from another direction. Like, this is just the journey that we all go on. And just to enjoy the process, just like everything else in life. Not to get lost in the discouragement of it, which is critically important. I talk all the time about the idea of like surrounding yourself with the right people, putting the right stuff into your mind, listening to the right things that build you up and don't take you down. You know, I'd like to say don't get discouraged, but that's a stupid ass statement, right? You're going to get discouraged, but do something to eliminate you falling into the depths of despair, right? And so the stuff that you're working on now, the stuff that you're busting your butt on now, where you're working through some of the grind, right? Oftentimes it's the stuff that's not sexy. Everybody wants the sexy little rose bush with the flowers on it. But there's so much work that went into the ground, went into the soil that nobody else could see. The development of the roots, the development of the foundation. That's what leads to the flowers, that leads to the fruits of your labor, right? That nobody else sees, as sexy, right? And that's what many of you guys are kind of working on right now. And I want to encourage you that the work that you're putting in now, that's the work that's going to show, that doesn't show now, that everybody's going to see you as an overnight success in your future, because they're going to miss out on the struggle and the journey that you're going through now. And so just to give you some further encouragement, there's so many groups and so many ways of like that can help you through both physically through some of this stuff and then just sometimes emotionally. Just talking to people that have been through it and like, oh shit, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. Like, this is normal. Like, I think that's hugely beneficial, right? But then can also pick you up when you're in your valleys, right? But then can also give you the advice and the pitfalls to avoid. I love being able to listen and to learn from other people. I see you make that mistake. Why do I want to step in that same hole? I'm happy to go around that hole. And there are so many groups out there, and I've been a part of many of these groups, that are there for the encouragement, that are there for the guidance. I mean, I've been part of groups, so I talked about some of these struggles, right? Of like, well, who the hell would I want to hire? And what would that job, ad look like? And what would the job description look like? And I've been a part of so many people and so many groups that have been so generous in their giving of like, this is how I did it. This is my exact job ad. This is the exact job description of what I've had. And to be able to build off of that, there's, so don't sit out in through your bubble. Reach out to people and keep on keeping on. That's my advice for the day. You're doing great. Continue to put in the work and the fruits are coming. Your summer, your fall harvest is coming. Take care, guys.